Hi, I'm glad to be here. I am a JavaScript React developer at an ed tech company called Nzella. This is my first talk, so please bear with me. Thank you. And I'm also a new developer. I was a junior high school math teacher for a lot of years. And I made my transition to tech and started coding in 2019, landed my role in 2021. And so what I know is pair programming, right? Because that resonates with me. And so I just happen to do it with React, but I think this goes for everybody and anyone who's in development. So we're gonna be talking about pair programming as a React developer, kinda. So our agenda for today is what is pair programming, right? Some people like it, some people don't. I love it. The benefits of pair programming. Yep. Assistive tools that we can use to be able to make our process a little bit better. Different learning styles, because I was in education. And how to differentiate your partners and cross-team pairing. So when we go into pair programming is a common development technique where two programmers work on the same task on a single screen, right? So this can happen remotely. This can also happen non-remotely, in person. We usually take turns writing the code and then reviewing the lines with the partner. And like I said, it can be implemented in person as well as remotely. So there are about 3 different pair programming styles. We have unstructured. So in the unstructured pair programming style, 2 developers can trade off and take lead about who should kind of do what, right? It's a little bit unstructured, right? So it's more casual coding. Hey, want to hop on? I think let's talk about these things, and we're kind of working together. We discuss and we implement the code. And the driver is not based on a time limit. Sometimes you have more structured pairing where you have I'm on for 30 and then I'm off and then you go on and we swap, right? But this is more of you kind of feel it out. Hey, you want to keep on going? Yeah, I'm going to keep on going. Let's do this thing. And so I like this style. It's not as structured, but I've worked with some other styles too. We have a driver navigator style, right? And so this approach is pretty much where one developer is setting the architectural and strategic direction, and the other implements the code decision, which means I'm talking, you're typing. So one person writes the code, and the other is going to observe, review, kind of say, wait, I see this, right? And you're like, I think we should do this. Let's implement this hook here. Okay, let's put this use effect. Let's put it in, right? And it's like, okay, I'm going to type it in. And they usually have a set time limit, and then we switch roles because we kind of take a break, you kind of do it. I know at my company, when we have a driver navigator, we also do a thing called mob programming, which is really cool. It's a group of us of 4, and we'll go and we'll have a set time limit, and we'll still have a driver, except everybody else is part of the architectural style. We're all talking, and then we're one person is doing it, is writing. And then we have a ping pong. A ping pong pairing, I would say, I don't think I've necessarily done this, or kinda, not that I knew, would be if you're using, let's say live server. We're both on there at the same time, right? And we're okay, I'm gonna put this in, and we're both typing, and it's updating as it goes, right? So that would be ping pong, because we're both working at the same time, and we're kind of softballing this thing, right? Both are reviewing the codes. I'm looking at it, I'm reading it, you're looking at it, you're reading it. We're talking it together, we're discussing it at the same time. And we're communicating as the code is developing. So, like I said, we'll use assistive tools to be able to do a ping pong method, in my opinion, but I did hear that someone uses 2 keyboards. So that's new, but my whole time I've been remote, so I don't know anything about the 2 keyboard thing, but that was good to know. The benefits of pair programming. It's knowledge sharing, right? So whether we're going from junior to junior, from junior to senior, from senior down to junior, or mid-level and everything in between, we're able to share our knowledge about this is what I know about what's here in this code base. This is what happened before and why we implemented these things, why I've made these decisions. Collective code ownership. Sometimes we're both on there together. That can happen in a code review where you have collective code ownership. Somebody comes in, they review your code, and they kind of say, hey, I think you should do this here. And you're like, I'm just going to press OK for that one in GitHub, and I'm just going to let them also have code ownership of this one, right? And then if anything was to happen, let's say you go on vacation, they understand what's happening here. They can take over your PR. We can be able to get this going. Reflection. Reflection always goes back to like kind of reiterating yourself. Talking about what you've learned, sharing it with other individuals, which is also very important, which then leads to team bonding, because guess what? Especially in this remote world that we live in, some of us don't see each other, right? We're in here, we're working in our silos, and we're just over there coding away. And when do you have time to be able to build a relationship with your other teammate? Unless you're maybe on a pair programming session where, yeah, you're coded, but you hear the kids in the background, and you're like, oh, how's the baby, right? And so all that comes in, and you will be able to have a much stronger team that actually values one another. It increases your communication skills, because guess what? I can't say what that curly bracket thingy thing or whatever, so I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna try to communicate properly, not just for junior developers to go and up their vocabulary, but also for senior developers to be like, wait, you're kind of talking over my head. Can you bring it down? And so that I can be able to understand that. So we also are communicating our communication skills cross, which then solidifies our knowledge. Because every time you repeat something, guess what? You get better at it. So we're going to solidify our knowledge, and guess what? We become better developers. Assistive tools. I named one. We have LiveShare. So we have pretty much VS Code has the extension of LiveShare. Not sure if it's anywhere else because I'm a VS Code girl. But, and with that, it's a great remote tool where you're able to share all your project files, access the terminal with your collaborators, and you can also share with people that don't use VS Code. I don't know why, but, I'm like, go ahead, look it in the browser if that works for you. And then I'm going to just go to GitHub, and just also a great remote tool. Hey, I pushed up my code, pull it down, look at it, see what's going on with this. Oh, I've made changes to your code. We can still be on a Zoom chat or a Meet, and I can say, listen, I just gave you the link, pull down my code, work on it, and then we're still working remotely and pairing while using GitHub, and we all pretty much use GitHub, right? It works well for asynchronous as well as asynchronous. Hey, I can't look at it right now, but I'm still collaborating with you. I'm just not collaborating with you live, right? And so you can be able to pull down code and just comment on things. And it assists with version control. Hey, I pushed up the new version. Can you pull out a new one and just see what I did so far? And instead of looking at something old, which helps with your workflow. Learning styles. So now, when we're pair programming, it kind of touches on the different types of learning styles. We're visual learners. We're looking at the screen together. We're kind of and so if you're a visual, you can be able to benefit from pair programming. Auditory, guess what? You're talking to me, you hear me talking to you, right? And so that also works. We're touching on our auditory skills. We're obviously reading and writing. Kinesthetic, because we're actually working it through. We're practicing. We're doing the thing, right? So it's also kinesthetic. Logical learning, because what isn't logical about coding? Right? It's nothing but logic, right? So we're doing logical learning style as well. Social learning style, because we're actually collaborating, talking with one another, communicating. And then if you're going for the async, you're like, listen, I've got a headache, I can't do this. We can do a solitary learning style where you can go off, still communicate, still go and comment back at one another, but yet you're in your own little world, which is fine. Just don't stay too long. I would also say, this is something that I love to do, is to differentiate my partners. And if you don't understand what that means that working with not just one person, don't just get comfortable with the one developer that you happen to know in your team that seems to know everything and everything else like that. You want to also learn from different types of people, because everyone has something else to be able to contribute, right? Because it can either be a great experience, you're like, oh, I love working with it, or it can be an horrible experience, like, oh my God, I hate pair programming because you had one bad partner. So it exposes you to different techniques and strategies. For example, when I was learning how to code, right? I remember I had multiple what I called mentors. And so I had some people who were really, really great at CSS and some people that helped me with those horrible algorithm challenges that we hated, right? And so, and just different types of people, and I learned different things from different people, right? And as well as, I remember in my boot camp, we did class components. I know somebody talked about the horrible class components, but then I had someone else that taught me hooks because they didn't teach me in boot camp. So those are different things. So I learned different techniques. It allows you to build different relationships also throughout the organization. And I would say, don't just pair with people that are on your team. Sometimes everyone knows how to code, which means then if you work with someone that's outside of your team, it exposes them to what's going on your side of the code base, and then vice versa, you get exposed to what's happening on the other side of the code base, right? That may not be within your little silo of what your team is working on, which gives you new perspectives. Wait, I wanted to go back one more thing. Which gives you new perspectives, right? And allows you to kind of like say, hey, I want to, but then he's going, no, I'm going next part. I was right. Pairing cross teams. There you go. Which exposes you to different parts of the code base and allows you to share information and contribute differently to your team. I remember in one of my teams, I was talking with someone else on another team, right? And somehow I was building out a component that was already halfway built on their side. And so then I said, wait, they already have something like that. So instead of us going and building it all, we made it a reusable component instead of going and building all over scratch, because sometimes it can help reduce your workload. And removes that silos that teams can fall in, because sometimes when you're working on your teams, you can just think about just that one little thing that you're working on, and you think that like you're not kind of exposed and you don't talk to other teams or anything else like that. And so now when you have cross-team collaboration, then you're like, oh, we are a team. We are working on this one project together, right? Even though we're all responsible for different parts of it. And that's that, right? And that's the end of my talk. Some questions that I get are, how do you address the gap between junior developers and senior developers? I think I kind of said it in terms of just being able to kind of, senior developers are able to kind of think not in their what they're used to doing. And also I would say for senior developers and junior developers, right? We want to think about junior developers to be passive learners versus active learners. We want to be active learners. Sometimes we can get with our seniors and they're just like, okay, all you gotta do is, and they'll just start doing it, right? And we want to say, no, stop. This is what I want to do it as well. I want to be able to learn from you. This is what I think you're saying. Is this what you mean, right? And we want to be able to kind of share down, and senior developers, so I say, okay, yes, that's not quite what I meant, and it will force you to be able to communicate better because something is missing within that communication style that we also have to think about, right? Because it's not just about the people that know what you're talking about. It's also about trying to build up the junior developers so they can also understand and be able to take over your spot because you're not going to be here forever. Next one is going to be, how do we deal with team conflicts? I am very fortunate I have a wonderful team where we kind of listen to each other and we don't really have team conflicts too much. But I would say that think about the process. What is the best way to be able to handle those solutions? And then come to some type of resolution to go and say, okay, I think this is what it is. Now, if we get to this spot where we're two bullheaded people and we both want it to be our way, just go to your tech lead and just be like, listen, you draw the straw and tell me which one we're going to use. But hopefully we're all adults and we don't have to do that. And that is my talk for you. Thank you all. Oh, we have questions. Oh, God. Okay. I lost the mic. Okay. I got a mic.
Hello, I want to start by saying thank you for your presentation. So I have a, I don't know what is the fundamental question on you presented the benefits of pair programming, but I didn't say where you presented the weaknesses of pair programming. So my question is, in which situation we can apply pair programming? Just imagine we are developing a software in which there is a lot of refactoring method. I don't imagine how it's possible for two people to be refactoring billions of lines of code lines on the same at the same time on the same computer. Is it really applicable in that case, or there are some specific type of software where we can apply
You said that you're refactoring code and you don't see how two people can be able to do it at the same time. That's the question, right?
Yes, I can be more precise. Let us take an ERP software. You understand what I mean?
You said remotely. I'm trying to understand. I'm sorry.
Enterprise resource planning software, software for overall management in organizations. So I want to add, for instance, a module on the software or to refactor the the the, the I how can I call it the base of the software. This is the
So you're refactoring something and
a lot of
you're refactoring a lot of code, right? And you're like, I can't do this with somebody else. I need to do this by myself. That's pretty much your
I can
stance.
do it with somebody else, but is it in a pair programming way? That's my question. Because we can do it both of us, but somebody is doing a part of the code remotely and I'm doing on my computer. But what I understood is that pair programming, we are both of us on the same computer writing the same line. Is it not it?
So remember, there's different strategies for pair programming, right? So where one is driving and one is kind of like looking as typing, right? And so why couldn't you remotely be on a meet on VS on live share, looking at code together, and as you are refactoring the code, why wouldn't you be able to just talk your way through it and be able to teach the other programmer while you're doing that, and then take a seat back? I understand there's a lot of code and you got a lot of work to do, but you also time box it, right? It's not all day. I'm not saying for you to be on there for hours at a time, but you couldn't dedicate, let's say, a half an hour to be able to give back to somebody else.
I don't imagine that.
Well, this is where I think we would have to be also open-minded, right? And I'm not saying it's for everyone, and this is why we all have to choose our partners wisely. But I think that, yes, there's benefits to it, a small bit of time to be able to work on communication skills for you. And I'm not saying it's, like I said, it's not for everybody, but it works for me. And as a person that has worked with many developers, right? Some I choose to stay with, and some I'm like, all right? Like, it's okay, right? Because maybe it's not as a great experience, right? But I think teaching and being able to talk with other people also makes you a better developer and kind of removes that kind of like, I'm just going to do it by myself, because maybe that person might also have something to be able to add and contribute to your process while you're doing it, and maybe there's another way that you're in your refactoring that may not always be the best, and maybe they learned something new and also be able to share with you. Just saying.
For sure. But I have that I wanted to say that you have to
Pros and cons.
specify in which context pair programming is applicable.
I got it. I missed the cons. I'll work on it next time. It was the first one.
Hi.
Hi.
You said something very interesting earlier that I wish I knew when I was like earlier on in my career. You mentioned mentors and how you learn from them. I'm the same way. I learn from just through like osmosis, learning from other people that are working on something and solving a problem together. And I didn't know that until after I got the job. And I'm like, wow, I wish I knew that. So I just wanted to ask you, how do you find mentors?
Oh, that's a whole networking conversation.
Right, and if you could share, how do you approach a mentor when you know you want them to be your mentor?
Okay. So within my process of finding mentors, I would see someone at a meet like this, right? Maybe the gentleman that was talking about whatever. I'm so interested in, what is it, Codex?
Yes.
And Codex, right? Codex. I was like, oh my God, they know all these things. And so I would just be like, I would love to go and have a meeting with you one of these days, right? And I would get a meeting with him on the books, and I would say, I'm so interested in this. Can we make this reoccurring? And then when I'm there, I would then just start just picking their brain. And if they're open, they're open, right? And if they're not, they're not. And then you move on to the next person. If you're, I've used Twitter, all right? I've went and shared, got other people that said, oh, this person helped me out. I'll get from them. I had other people that did talks. I'll email them, right? And then I'll just book a meeting, make it reoccurring. Somehow with this charm, they want to help me. And I'm like, I'll take it, right? And so it works out. But I think it's about being extroverted, coming out your shell, and asking for what you want, right? Because at the end of the day, if they say no, you're in the same place. But if they just happen to say yes, you gain maybe a lifelong friend, and you gained a mentor that's here to help you. If they want to help you, they're going to help. If they don't, on to the next.
Golden, thank you. My last part of that question is, when you make that relationship, how do you maintain it? Because I know.
Like I said, I make the meetings reoccurring. So, which means that I'll go for someone who's busy. Let's say they happen to be a CEO. I'll say, do you mind if you do this quarterly, bi-yearly? I don't care. I just want to be on the book to where I have to see them again, right? Someone who might have more time, do you mind making this monthly, weekly, right? I remember, I don't know if you're familiar with Scott Moss. Scott Moss is a mentor of mine, right? He's used to videos. He's on Front End Masters, whatever, right? And so he just happened to do a talk. I happened to send him an email. He happened to have time, right? And then, because he was on paternity leave at the time, and then right before I got my job, I literally coded with him every day because I just happened to shoot my shot and be at the right time at the right place. And then as I didn't need it anymore, then we just still catch up from time to time, but the relationship is already made. And you just continue that with other people. And then you just kind of, and then you work it, right? And then you keep on checking in. And relationship building is a skill that we have to actively work on. And that's how I look at that. And that comes with everything. When we're pairing, when we're just working with, that's how you're able to keep relationships from one job to the next, because you actually worked on keeping the relationship and trying to be helpful within that relationship, right? Because I'm getting new information from them, but they're also getting information from me and skills that I had that might not be correlating, but still might be valuable.
Thank you so much.
No problem. A question over here. I don't know where it's going.
Thank you very much. I'm the son of retired educators.
Okay.
So I've been around that conversation for much longer. So I'd like to know how you feel about the following. So I have so much respect for teachers. I mean, I could talk about that forever. But I will say this: there are good teachers and some who are teaching and don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to assume there are great mentors who want to do some pair programming, and others who might want to do some pair programming but aren't that good.
Yes.
So how do you figure that out?
I think you are as much of in that process as they are, right? Do you stay in a bad relationship just because they want it?
But as a junior, do you know?
You should be able to, if that person is not adding value to you, why would you stay?
But my question is, like I said, as a junior, you're making a bunch of discoveries every day, right? So you're not sure what the right path is, you're just listening to a mentor. And so, like, my idea is that, I'm basically asking that question simply because, as a junior, there are a lot of discoveries you're making every day. And a lot of them are going to be post-mentor, where you're going to be like, oh, that was actually wrong.
I think this goes back into not putting all your eggs in one basket, which I told you to also differentiate your mentor so that you're working with multiple people, so even as you go and, let's say we get to the reflection point, right? Where you worked on something with one person, you have another mentor, and you're like, wait, I just want to go and re-go over this with you. And they're going to say, wait, that's all the way wrong, right? And so You have to be able to make those decisions. Just because you're a junior don't mean you're a baby, right? So like we're here, we're still making conscious decisions about what we want in our life. Even when you're young, you know a good teacher versus a bad teacher. You know a teacher that lets you play versus a teacher that actually worked you. And so where you have to make those decisions. Just because that's the first person that you interacted with doesn't mean that has to be the last one or the one that you keep.
I mean, let's say hi to polygamy, is that it? Bad joke.
I must say this, and I think everyone will agree with me, that the energy on this topic was on another level.
Thank you.
So my question for you is, like, at your current organization, how many times have you employed the pair programming paradigm, if you have to put a number to it? And has it ever led to any delay in your deliverables? How do you deal with that?
Okay, wait, I didn't hear everything. You said how many times have I done pair programming?
Yeah, in your current organization.
And within my organization, since I started on reoccurring schedules with multiple engineers. That's for the last 2 years, put it at about 3 times a week. Do some math with that one, right? How did it lead to deliverables, which means that there were,
Any delays?
huh?
What are the main delays caused by the pair programming?
Say that one more time.
Any delays caused by pair programming? Because let's say you're in a conflict, right, and that could eventually add more hours to building that feature or that particular bug fix.
I don't really believe that it was a delay that was caused by pair programming. I think it gave my team a little bit more insight into what we were working on. We were able to collaborate more effectively. In general, my team loves the pair programming, so I just happen to have a bunch of extroverts on my team, so that happens to work, right? I don't think it caused delays. I feel like when we do get together and we decide to go on pair programming, that's when we have our most effective work, and that's when we're able to go and really like knock things out, because it's like 2, 3, 4 brains at one time working together to be able to get these things done, where one person might have been stuck for an hour or 3 hours or however much time, right? We're able to go and say, oh, this is what you do, because now we have people kind of interjecting where their strengths are and others interjecting where theirs are, and we're able to get it done, and then we just have a driver and we're knocking things out. I like, you know, I like it, right? So I'm obviously going to be like, go do it, right? But I understand also that it's not for everyone, and some people need the downtime to be able to think. And sometimes I'm like, wait, hold on, not today. I'm working on something. I need to think about it before I talk about it. And taking that time to be able to go back and be able to kind of separate yourself from that and be able to say, today I'm going to pair program, but thank God we work remotely and we're in this type of industry where I can say, today I'm not pair programming. I have to cancel our meeting because I need to think, and I'll talk to you later. And it works.
Cool. Thank you for answering.
No problem.